Hey everybody, Professor Snart here checking in. It's been a little while. I was out of town in Houston at a conference last week, and so I can't believe it's already Thursday of this week when I'm recording this, but I'm finally kind of getting caught up with, just from being away. Anyway, so it's been a while since I've checked in, at least in video format here, but I've obviously been, checking in with the course and keeping in touch via email with various folks and all that kind of stuff. So the course has been sort of churning away here. Just looking at our due dates, then we've had our posting due date pass for our final workshop, which is the open genre workshop, where again you're invited to do another poem or a short story or creative nonfiction or maybe even a genre that we haven't covered. So lots of things that are open there. I noticed that a number of folks posted poems again, and noting that they did so because it's not something they're necessarily the most comfortable with, but in fact they found most challenging. And I always like when people, especially in a format like ours, right, which is the workshop where you're not again being graded really on the so-called quality of the work. You're graded on the investment of energy, especially with the feedback part. But it's nice to see people like trying the difficult thing and not maybe just falling back on what they would be more familiar with or more used to writing or that kind of stuff. So obviously then we have our turnaround next Tuesday for providing feedback. Again, this is our last workshop opportunity, so really do your best to provide some meaningful feedback to folks, noting strengths that are going on, but also areas for potential improvement or places where you're a bit confused or maybe suggestions for some alternates that people can try. I've met with a lot of folks from our class just individually, which has been really great. And often what I'll say, so if this sounds repetitive, that's why, is that when it comes to getting feedback or even just sort of revising your own work, it's not always that you revise and it's better. It's a bit counterintuitive because we think we want to revise to make things better. But sometimes we have to revise and see that the change actually makes it worse. It interrupts the flow. It doesn't have that sort of cohesion anymore. So we go back. So not every revision is something that, of course, you have to stick with or necessarily makes a piece of writing better. Sometimes revision is the process of just experimenting, of trying different things, trying a different line break, trying a different word, writing a different ending or changing a piece of dialogue, whatever it might be. But you don't have to know in advance that that change is going to, in fact, be better. We, of course, hope it will, but sometimes you just have to see it on the page and then decide, yes, I like this better, it is more effective, or no, I like the other way better. So it's always a series of experiments, even little sort of micro experiments on the level of the word or the line break or something. And if you like it, you keep it, and if not, you go back. So yeah, revision isn't always you knowing that something is going to be better and thus you make the change. Sometimes you have to see it to really figure that out. Okay, so just off the bottom of the screen here, we have then a series of student conferences. We can do face-to-face, we can do virtual. Again, a nice kind of wrap up as we get towards the end of the course, just to talk about your writing. If there's particular things you want to talk about, we certainly can, but I'll sort of like ask you to reflect on what you've learned. How has your writing changed? And truthfully, sometimes we can identify things that we've learned, like you've run into a new idea or a new kind of reading, or you've had a different experience. Even the workshop might be new for some people. But when it comes to writing, especially creative writing, often we don't really notice a change or an improvement in even over the course of like a 16-week term. That is a lot of time, but in the grand scheme of getting better as a writer, you don't always see improvement that quickly. It's there, probably just waiting to come out, but sometimes it takes a while, years of writing to really look back at that earliest stuff and see, you can sort of see the novice mistakes that you were making. But again, it takes a lot of time. So I'll ask you that sort of reflective question, but even knowing that sometimes it's truthfully hard to answer, or, how has your writing improved, or has it improved? It probably has, but sometimes it's really hard to actually see that yourself. I'm just going to take a quick look then at our closing units. We still have quite a bit of time in our course, a number of weeks left, but we are getting towards the end. So we're obviously finishing up our open genre workshop, and then we have our conferences here. Again, they're mandatory. If you have scheduling problems, you can just be in touch with me as we've done before. There's the conference sign-up wiki, so you can click in here and just add your name, reminding me again of, like these folks have done, if you want to meet face-to-face, we can use Adobe Connect or Skype, a sort of virtual framework, so just let me know. And again, once you check the list here, if the times don't work, just be in touch with me and we can figure something else out. And then our very last unit is way down at the end here, off the recorded screen, but you can see it here. Okay, so I will do another video about this because it's still a ways out, but if you want to be, start thinking about this, you certainly can. So kind of based on the discussion that we might have as part of our conference time, that sort of reflective, like what did you learn, how's your writing changed, what do you see for yourself in the future, writing fitting in, even if, I know that everyone's not going to be a professional writer as their job, but there's very few career tracks that don't involve some degree of writing or even just creative communication. So the creative writing as a skill, I think, is sort of undervalued if you think of it just as leading to a profession that is just in that, like, writing kind of career path. It has application across many career opportunities. Okay, so the final reflection then is here just asking you to put kind of, to formalize a little bit, some of what we might talk about in that, the conference time. So again, the final reflection, sort of like what did you learn? How do you feel about the, not the course, but your writing? What experiences do you have that were meaningful? All that kind of stuff. And of course, you can read it here. The thing that I want you to be really conscious of, though, is that I don't just want the really generic, like, rehashing of the rules, or I liked a reading, or it's certainly not a review of the course itself. But to really be specific about instances in your own writing, particular quotes from readings or, textbook pieces here, specific, like, activities we did throughout the course in some of the units. So you sort of want to look back actually just at the units list and kind of remind yourself of the various things we've done. We've covered a lot of territory if you think about it. And then of course you can bring in aspects of other classmates' writing, whether it's feedback you were getting or particular writing that they were doing that you felt was really successful. Somebody wrote a great poem or a great story, or just a great, one of the activities that we did. You were in a group with folks, or you read one on the discussion board that just really worked. So as you talk about kind of this bigger picture, reflecting back on your development through the course, I really want to be conscious that we tie that to specifics. So again, you're kind of like quoting the course, you're quoting yourself, you're quoting your own writing. And the nice thing about how we've worked online here is all of that stuff is still available to you. So even if you didn't have keep a file of it, or obviously you might not have saved other people's files once you sent them back, we can go back into those discussion boards and units and you can find that stuff. So the option here is to write a basic reflection essay here where you have a clear introduction, body paragraphs, a clear conclusion, again focusing really on those specifics. But I'm also inviting you to do a video essay response. So if you want to maybe just make some notes for yourself here, you don't have to script it all out. You certainly don't have to write it and then record it. That would sort of defeat the purpose. So the video response is kind of the same question, but you just talking us through the answer. So it can be a little bit less formal. Again, you probably want to make some notes for yourself just so you don't miss anything, but you certainly don't have to script it. And this is a really nice way of kind of concluding the course, because we get to, once again, not just read what people have put on the page, but actually see them talking us through that. And then the other possibility here is, even if you didn't do your video essay this way, you could always do a response to somebody else's. Since we're using, again, the discussion board feature, I'm asking you to respond to at least 2 other students. So maybe you'd want to do your initial thing as a written document, but then do the response as a video. Maybe you want to do the opposite. Do your own as a video essay, and then do the written response to other people's posts. Or maybe you go totally video. Again, it's not a requirement by any means, but I really like to offer that option. It's a nice kind of, like I said, way of wrapping up the course in a more sort of a more human way, so we actually can put the the face to the name a little bit more than we already have. Okay, you'll notice then too, once we get right to the end of our course, there is an opportunity for you to offer some feedback. I'm always interested to hear what went well, if you had any challenges, so you can provide that to me once we get, right to the end of the course, which is still a few weeks away, but just kind of walking you through where we're headed. Okay, so back to our due dates list then. Again, in the middle of our open genre workshop, looking at next Tuesday, then we'll turn around and do that kind of weekish of conferences, and then we pretty much finish things up into the first week of May. Okay, so if you have any questions or concerns, by all means be in touch, and I look forward to seeing everyone's feedback within their groups for our final open genre workshop.